Lisa Rubel from Quilty Zest, and it's week 4 of the Strippy Improv Holiday Quilt Along. Now, if you've been following along, hopefully you've got your blocks made and you're ready for assembly and finishing, which is what we're talking about this week. If you're not that far, don't worry, you still have time to get there. And if you're new to this whole thing and haven't started yet, don't worry either, because it's easy to catch up. So this is the pattern, Strippy Improv Holiday, and it includes 11 different templates, and you can see some of them back here that you can use with the Strippy Improv technique to make blocks. And the pattern offers instructions for making both a 4-block wall hanging or a 4-block table runner. So it's quick and easy to do. You don't have to make a whole quilt, and there's even time to get it done before the holidays. So even though the quilt along is wrapping up, these videos on YouTube will stick around, as will my blog posts that will give you tips and tricks and advice for all of the different steps of creating one of these quilts. So I hope you'll consider joining us and share what you've made on Instagram using the hashtag Strippy Improv Holiday, because I'd love to see how some of your quilts turned out. So let's talk about assembly today. I actually have finished my top for the quilt along. I haven't quilted it yet, but I did 2 snowflake blocks and 2 snowman blocks. And the border and the frame fabric is from Cherry Guidry's Nordic Cabin collection for Benertex. I love those cute little snowman heads. I haven't decided if I'm going to put a face on my snowman yet. I might do it with buttons, or I might do it later with thread. So the first thing I want to talk about is about how to sew your sashing and your blocks together straight. And that seems like it might be obvious, and it is, but because we have such thin frames and such thin sashing, I want to show you how I assemble the block rows together in order to make everything look straight. As you're assembling your blocks together into the wall hanging top, one thing you want to take a look at is making sure that the frames from the bottom row and the top row line up as perfectly as possible. And so the way I do that is I flip it over on top and I fold it back so that I can see where these frames line up. And you can see I have to pull this up a little bit so that it's at the top edge of that sashing. But if I pull it back, I can see my vertical sashing and I can see that they are aligned. So what I'm going to do is put actually a couple pins in here to hold that, and then pin the rest of it and go and sew that, and that should ensure that my vertical sashing for the bottom row and the top row are as aligned as possible. One other tip I have for you is when you're sewing the borders on, sew them with the frame side up and the borders underneath. So if I flip mine upside down, sew it like this, because that way you can keep an eye on the edge of your frame. And if for some reason your frame isn't quite straight, and you can see right here, mine was not perfect, but what I did is I lined up the edge of my sewing machine foot with the edge of the block, and that helped me to get everything straightened out. If you've got the border on top, you're kind of sewing blind, and if your 1/4 inch seam is perfect, wonderful, but if you're sewing this way, it gives you room to fix it if you need that room. So let's talk a little bit about quilting. So what's nice about these projects is they're small, so they're easier to maneuver under your home machine. And what I typically do for quilting is I do straight line horizontal stitches. And why do I do straight line quilting? Well, first of all, it's easy. And second of all, it's quick. And this time of year when I'm trying to finish a project before the holidays, either to give or to display, quick is good. And the third reason is that it just creates texture. It doesn't take away from your blocks. It doesn't take away from your border fabric. It kind of blends into everything and just creates texture. So if you look at this version here, this is the one I made last year. You can see there's a lot going on. I've got this fun ugly sweater border fabric, sashing, and background fabric that has little dots on it. And then of course all of the cute prints in my 4 blocks. So I chose a neutral thread that wouldn't show up too much on the light or on the dark. and I just did straight lines. And if you look at the quilt as a whole, it really does just read as texture and it doesn't distract away. So like I said, that is my go-to and what I end up doing for a lot of these quilts. And most likely what I'm going to do for this version when I quilt it, hopefully this weekend. So this version right here, these ornaments, this was quilted by my friend and favorite machine quilter, Diane Oakes. And she obviously is a much better quilter than I am, but what she did is she quilted different motifs in each of the fabrics in the ornaments. And you can see there's loop-de-loops and little stars in there, and just really cute way to make those ornaments pop. And then she did sort of a back and forth straight line in the background that went in the same direction as these little silver dotted stripes on the fabric, and a little wavy line in the frames. And then in the border she did these you know, circles that connected to each other, which kind of reflected the fabric as well. So if you want to do some custom quilting, because it is a small project, it's a lot easier to maneuver, and you can do some really cute things to add detail to the blocks themselves. You know, an overall design in the background of the block sort of helps that recede, which allows the block itself to pop, and then something fun for the border. And I think actually, yeah, if I turn this one over, you can see, because I just had a plain background in this, you can really see her quilting. And it's just a lot of fun with all of the detail that she put in and the different colors. So that's just another idea for you. This is another version that I made, and I got brave and did some custom quilting on it. You can see I did a lot of back and forth lines in the shapes of the